Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. I came up with today's question while doing research for my recent episode about how Regenerate works, and I thought it was such an interesting one that it felt like a shame to bury it most of the way through a 13-minute video, so I decided to break it out into its own dedicated episode. Amy animates a Gideon Jura, and Nick responds with Incinerate against it. After both of those resolve, if Nick cast a spell that would destroy Gideon, would Amy be able to regenerate it? Okay, so the first thing that we'll need to answer this question is the current Oracle text of Incinerate. There hasn't yet been a printing with its current wording, so here you go. Now let's observe that if Nick waited till after the Gideon 0 ability resolved to cast Incinerate, this definitely wouldn't work out for him. Incinerate says that a creature dealt damage this way can't be regenerated, but Gideon, the creature, has an effect that prevents all damage that would be dealt to it. If the damage from Incinerate is prevented, then nothing was dealt damage this way, so the no regen clause would not apply. The next thing I want to point out is that Incinerate's no regen clause actually functions differently from the one on, for example, Terror. Terror's is a one-time thing. It can't be regenerated, modifies the meaning of the earlier instruction to destroy the targeted creature. On the other hand, we can see that Incinerate includes a duration. A creature dealt damage this way can't be regenerated this turn. This means that Incinerate's no regen clause functions by creating a continuous effect. During the resolution of Incinerate, a continuous effect gets set up that changes the rules of the game, such that any creature dealt damage by Incinerate cannot be regenerated. Now, as this rule makes clear, being regenerated does not refer to creating a regeneration shield on a permanent, nor to casting a spell or activating an ability that will do so as part of its resolution. Rather, that phrase refers to actually applying a regeneration shield to replace destroying the affected permanent. The last piece of the puzzle is to remember that this continuous effect modifies the rules of the game. Usually, when a resolving spell or ability creates a continuous effect, the set of permanents that are affected is locked in at the time that spell or ability resolves. However, that's only true if the continuous effect modifies the characteristics or the controller of the permanents that it affects. Continuous effects that modify the rules of the game can affect objects that would not have been affected when the continuous effect began. This is similar to, for example, Exhaustion. During its resolution, it creates a continuous effect that changes the rules of the game too. Normally, all permanents untap during your untap step, but with Exhaustion, creatures and lands don't get to. If Nick animates a vehicle and blocks with it, and then Amy plays an Exhaustion, will Nick's vehicle untap? Yes. Even though the vehicle was a creature when Exhaustion resolved, it is not a creature or a land when the game is deciding which permanents will untap during Nick's untap step. So the fact that the game rules have been changed to disallow untapping creatures and lands will not keep the vehicle tapped, even though it was a creature at the time when Exhaustion has resolved. Putting all this together, we can see that the case from our original problem statement will work exactly the same way. Incinerate resolves, dealing damage to Gideon. Then Gideon becomes a creature. If something tries to destroy it that turn, the game will need to decide whether it can regenerate. So, at that point, it will ask Gideon, "Are you a creature?" and "Did Incinerate deal damage to you this turn?" Because the answer to both of those questions is yes, it can't be regenerated. If you're thinking that this is a little weird, you're right, but bear in mind a bit of historical context. At the time Incinerate was first printed, it was not possible to deal damage to any permanent that wasn't a creature, because battles and planeswalkers hadn't been invented yet. But you know what was possible to do? Redirect damage from one creature to another, or from a player to a creature. So the wording on Incinerate made a lot more sense, considering the cards that existed at the time, even though it's a little bit awkward today. But that also means that if you incinerate a Nomad's Encore and that damage gets diverted to 3 different creatures, the Nomads would still get to regenerate, but none of the creatures that took damage for it would, which is the answer I think most people would probably expect. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.